meeting to order of the Mayor and Board of Commissioners for August 13th, 2024. Can I get the roll call, please?
Pauline Braun,
Here.
Emily Kleiner,
Here.
Dave Warnick, Augie Pearson,
Here.
Mayor Mary.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will you bow your heads with me for a brief prayer? Father God, I come to you tonight on behalf of our town. Lord, I ask that you watch over our citizens and this selected body. Be with us as we are here tonight. Be with our police department and our troops serving here and overseas, as well as all of our first responders. Watch over us, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. First on the agenda is the consent agenda. You see that below. Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving forward into public presentations. Town Administrator, do you have that?
Yes, I do. You have an ordinance before you to clean up some language in our administrative section of our code. It's ordinance 2024-07. If you'd like, I will read it into the minutes.
Please.
Okay. So it's an ordinance of the town of Rising Sun, Cecil County, Maryland, amending and adding language to Chapter 2 titled Administration and Government of the Code of Ordinances of the town of Rising Sun in order to amend the requirements to serve on the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, composition of membership, preferred education requirements, and to repeal any and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict. The first two boilerplates I'll skip. Whereas the Code of Ordinances of the town contains Chapter 2 titled Administration and Government, which establishes the general guidelines associated with the proper administration of affairs and businesses for the town of Rising Sun, Maryland, in accordance with the town charter and other applicable federal and state laws. Whereas this chapter contains Article 2 titled Organization of Government, which establishes the various departments and positions that handle the day-to-day administration of the town government under the auspices of the mayor and commissioners. And whereas this article contains Section 2-209 titled Creation and Administration of a Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, which establishes the creation of a Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, the composition of membership, process of appointment, designation of a chairman, length of term, removal, and vacancies. Whereas the mayor and commissioners wish to clarify the ability of a non-resident to be considered for appointment to either the Planning Commission or Board of Zoning Appeals. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the town commissioners of the town of Rising Sun, Cecil County, Maryland, and is hereby enacted and ordained by its authority that Section 2-209 of Chapter 2 of the Town Code shall be modified as follows. Section 1, the ordinance proposes to make changes to the Town Code, Chapter 2 titled Administration and Government, Article 2 titled Organization of Government, more specifically Section 2-209 titled Creation and Administration of a Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, subsection A titled Planning Commission. This section encompasses the composition of membership, preferred education experience, and compensation to the Planning Commission. Basically, this section allowed for one member of the Planning Commission to be a non-town resident if they met certain criteria. The amendment is basically the last sentence, with one remaining member permitted to be a non-resident. In our list of experience and preferred prerequisite that was adopted a couple years ago, that's what we wanted, but there was a conflict in the way this was written, so we've eliminated that conflict by just doing away with that last sentence. They're basically sticking to the original intent. that one member of these boards could be a non-resident who had an interest in serving and helping the town. Section 2, basically it's saying the same thing regarding the Board of Zoning Appeals, which consists of 5 members. The new language being inserted is 4 members. 4 of the members shall be bona fide residents of the town of Rising Sun, with 1 remaining member permitted to be a non-resident. And in both cases, town employees are not permitted to serve on these boards. So that's the ordinance. It is being presented as an emergency ordinance to clean up that language.
And this is something that we already had on the books. It was just a,
There was a conflict in the way it was written.
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 2024-07.
Seconded.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? I mean, it basically looks like with this document that it's just a cleanup of language, so,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Passes as an emergency. Thank you. Moving forward into ordinance 2024-08, which is the utility line requirements and franchisees. Do you have that, Town Administrator?
Yes, I do. So, and also the town attorney has joined us online, so if you have any questions for him as we go through, he is available.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 2024-08, this is basically an ordinance of the town of Rising Sun, Cecil County, Maryland, amending and adding language to Chapter 8 titled Water, Sewer, and Plumbing of the Code of Ordinances of the town of Rising Sun. This ordinance addresses the addition of new sections to Article 2 to incorporate recognized engineering standards for the construction of water and sewer lines within the town. Its designated future growth areas and for connection to the town's water and sewer system. The ordinance also repeals any and all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with these. If you are good with that premise, I'll read the ordinance into the minutes.
Please, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to skip the first 2 boilerplates. Whereas the Code of Ordinances of the town contains Chapter 8 titled Water, Sewer, and Plumbing, which establishes the general guidelines associated with the installation, maintenance, and regulation of water and sewer systems within the town, ensuring the provision of essential public utilities and adherence to public health and safety standards. And whereas the town of Rising Sun has developed a well-regarded water and sewer system that has garnered recognition for its reliability and effectiveness in serving the community's needs. And whereas the town has been approached with requests to extend its critical infrastructure services to surrounding regions, reflecting the trust placed in our system's capacity to support both current demands and future growth. And whereas in light of these requests and the town's role as a regional supplier of essential infrastructure, it is important to ensure that all water and sewer expansions are designed and constructed to the highest standards, thereby safeguarding against any potential unintended consequences and ensuring alignment with the town's comprehensive plan. And whereas the mayor and commissioners wish to address and codify the minimum requirements for the construction of water lines, adequate fire flow, and installation of fire hydrants within the town of Rising Sun or its future service areas as defined in the town of Rising Sun's comprehensive plan, or any entities that connect to the town's water system to provide water within the Cecil County region. Now therefore being enacted and ordained by the town commissioners of the town of Rising Sun, Cecil County, Maryland, and is hereby enacted and ordained by its authority that 2 new sections will be added to Chapter 8 of the Town Code as follows. Section 1, Article 2 of Chapter 8 is currently titled as Water and Sewer Connection Hookups. This title will be amended by changing it to read as Proper Design and Construction of Water and Sewer Systems. Section 2, 2 new sections will be added to this article to read as follows. Section 8-208, minimum public water main requirements. This section outlines the minimum standards for public water mains within town limits. All water mains must be approved by the town of Rising Sun and must also receive approval from the town's engineer to ensure compliance with these standards. These requirements are implemented to guarantee that the water distribution system is robust, capable of meeting both everyday and emergency demands, and adheres to fire protection requirements. It's a couple definitions that we need. Water supply grid. A water supply grid refers to a network of interconnected water mains, pipes, valves, pumping stations, and storage facilities designed to distribute water efficiently throughout a designated area. The grid is structured to provide redundancy, ensuring that if one section fails or requires maintenance, water can still be supplied from another part of the system. The benefits of a water supply grid include increased reliability, flexibility and resource management, and enhanced capability to meet both regular consumption and emergency demands such as fire suppression. Public water mains. A public water main refers to the primary conduits in the water supply system that distribute potable water. These mains are owned and operated by the town of Rising Sun. Additionally, the term includes water mains extended by other entities into the incorporated limits of the town, as well as those operated by other entities that connect directly to the town of Rising Sun's water system and receive water from it. Service connection. A service connection is the pipe or conduit that extends from the public water main to a specific property, delivering water directly to a building or premise. The service connection is typically installed and maintained by the property owner, though it connects to the public water line. It provides the final link between the public water supply and the end user. Section 2, minimum standard for water mains. All public water mains installed within the town limits or connected to and receiving water from the town of Rising Sun must be designed in accordance with the 10 states' standards for waterworks. These standards ensure that the water distribution system is properly engineered to meet the specific needs of the community. In addition, and in no case, shall the diameter of the water main be less than 8 inches, regardless of other design considerations. This requirement exceeds the typical minimum to ensure enhanced flow capacity and reliability in the town's water supply system, and ensures that even in the absence of fully interconnected water supply grid, the water distribution system can still deliver adequate flow and pressure across the network. In addition, the design of water mains must account for recognized peak flow demands as determined by the town engineer using sound and recognized engineering standards. This ensures that the system can handle the highest level of water usage without compromising service or pressure. These peak flow demands may occur during times of high residential, commercial, or industrial usage, as well as during emergency situations such as firefighting. By adhering to these specifications, the town aims to provide reliable water service to its residents, protect public health, and maintain sufficient water flow for firefighting and other critical uses. Fire hydrant installation and spacing. Fire hydrants must be installed on all public water mains in accordance with Chapter 18 of NFPA 1 Fire Code, which governs fire department access and water supply requirements. However, in no case shall the distance between fire hydrants exceed the following limits for buildings other than detached 1 and 2 family dwellings. The maximum distance shall not exceed 500 feet. And for detached 1 and 2 family dwellings, the maximum distance shall not exceed 800 feet. These spacing requirements ensure that fire hydrants are readily accessible in the event of an emergency and provide adequate coverage for firefighting efforts. Fire suppression flow requirements. Public water mains must comply with the flow rate and pressure requirements as specified in section 18.4.5.1 of NFPA 1 and other applicable standards. However, in no case shall the flow requirements be less than a minimum fire flow of 1,000 GPMs for 1 hour for 1 and 2 family dwellings, with a fire flow area not exceeding 5,000 square feet. This requirement may only be reduced to a minimum of 750 gallons per minute based on building separations from property lines as outlined in Chapter 18.4.5.1.5 of NFPA 1 and supported by the Insurance Service Office ISO guidelines. These parameters ensure that the water supply can provide the necessary pressure and volume to support both daily consumption and firefighting efforts. A new Section 8-209 will be added. Third-party entities operating water mains within town limits. This section outlines the requirements and obligations for third-party entities involved in extending water mains within the town of Rising Sun, connecting their system to the town's water supply, or operating within the town's designated future service area as identified in the comprehensive plan. The aim is to ensure that these external systems align with the town's standards for safety, reliability, and capacity, thereby protecting public health and ensuring sufficient fire protection in the greater Rising Sun area and designated growth areas. 1. Compliance with town design standards. Any third-party entity that extends water mains within the incorporated limits of the town of Rising Sun, connects its water mains directly to the town's water system, or operates within the town's designated future service area for water and sewer must fully comply with all applicable town standards, including those outlined in Section 8-208. This compliance includes adhering to minimum diameter requirements, fire hydrant installation and spacing regulations, and flow rate standards to ensure the water distribution system can effectively meet the demands of both routine usage and emergency situations. Compliance with the town's comprehensive plan. The extension of water or sewer service must align with the town's comprehensive plan, ensuring that all new infrastructure supports the town's strategy, objectives for growth, land use, and water and sewer management. Additionally, any third-party water lines must provide service to the town properties in a manner consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, including its growth and land use strategies, as well as water and sewer elements. This alignment is essential to support the town's long-term development goals and infrastructure planning. Number 3, franchise agreement. All third-party entities that wish to extend or connect water mains within the town limits or within the town's designated future service areas for water and sewer must enter into a franchise agreement with the town of Rising Sun. This franchise agreement will outline the terms under which the third-party entity is permitted to operate, including the obligation to maintain compliance with the town's standards, provide adequate fire protection, and ensure the reliability of the water supply. The agreement will also specify that the extension of service must align with the town's comprehensive plan, including but not limited to its growth, land use, water, and sewer elements. The franchise agreement will detail the legal and financial responsibilities of the third-party entity, including liability for any failure or service disruptions that affect the town's water system, residents, or future service areas. Number 4, approval process. Before any third-party entity can extend or connect water mains within the town limits or within the town's designated future service area for water and sewer, they must submit detailed plans and specifications to the town of Rising Sun for review. These plans must also be reviewed and approved by the town engineer to ensure that all extensions and connections meet the town's standards for design, construction, and capacity. The franchise agreement must be finalized and approved by the mayor and commissioners of the town before any work can begin. The approval process will also involve ensuring that the proposed infrastructure aligns with the town's comprehensive plan. Before any third-party entity can extend or connect water mains within the town limits or within the town's designated future service area for water and sewer, they must submit detailed plans and specifications to the town of Rising Sun for review. These plans must be reviewed and approved by the town engineer to ensure that all extensions and connections meet the town's standards for design and to ensure design, construction, and capacity. The franchise agreement must be finalized and approved by the mayor and commissioners of the town before any work can begin. The approval process will also ensure that the proposed infrastructure aligns with the town's comprehensive plan. Inspection and monitoring. The town of Rising Sun reserves the right to inspect and monitor all third-party water mains and connections, including those within the town's designated future service areas for water and sewer. To ensure ongoing compliance with the town's standards, regular inspections may be conducted to verify that the system continues to meet the required specifications and to address any potential issues proactively. Compliance with the franchise agreement and the town's comprehensive plan will be subject to ongoing review. Number 6, an agreement and liability. The agreement at a minimum and per the town attorney shall address the following items. A, liability for damages. The franchise agreement will explicitly define the liability of the third-party entity for any damages or issues arising from their water mains or connection, including but not limited to undersized lines, inadequate fire protection, or insufficient fire hydrants. B, water quality compliance. The agreement will require the third party to ensure that the water it supplies is potable and fully compliant with all applicable federal and state water quality regulations. In the event that the water fails to meet these standards, the third party must take immediate corrective action, which may include adhering to more stringent environmental standards imposed by the state of Maryland. C, protection of town infrastructure. Additionally, the third party shall ensure that their connection to the town system do not compromise or cause damage to the town system, appurtenances, or infrastructure in any regard. D, alignment with comprehensive plan. The extension of a service must also align with the town's comprehensive plan, including but not limited to its growth, land use, water, and sewer elements, and be applicable to both current and future service areas as identified by the town. E, penalties and corrective measures. The agreement will also detail penalties, mandatory corrective measures, and other provisions necessary to protect the town's interest and maintain the reliability and safety of the water supply. All the remaining boilerplate sections are the same. This is being considered as an emergency ordinance. And Mayor, if I would, I want to tie a couple important issues together for the benefit of our residents, because there's a couple references in here. You heard the reference to ISO, insurance underwriters. Basically, when you try to get homeowners insurance, there's a rating that they use that will predetermine how much you're going to pay for your homeowners or property insurance. And if your property is protected by a fire hydrant, you can receive significant savings in your homeowner's insurance. And so, in addition to us obviously wanting to make sure that public water mains have fire hydrants and have adequate fire flow for the fire department, we want to make sure that our residents are getting another return on the investments that are made in these systems, and to make sure that fire hydrants are installed. The other thing that's important to talk about here is that you hear a lot of reference to the comprehensive plan, and we've talked about this before, where the state of Maryland, and everything we're citing here comes out of state legislation to include the fact that we have the right to pass our own laws and regulate things in our jurisdiction. But we are also a municipal authority that also gives us the ability to regulate how our water and sewer lines are going to be ran when they're connected to our system. And what this is basically saying here is that under state law, we are required to have a comprehensive plan. And in that comprehensive plan, we are also required to show where we might annex and grow to, how that land is going to be used, and to show that we can provide water and sewer to those areas. We're required by law to do that. Once that is set, that becomes the law of the land, so to speak. This ordinance is making sure that if we're running a line, or a developer's running a line, or a third party is running a line, or another government entity is running a line, that one, there will be fire hydrants, there will be adequate fire flow, and it will comply with our comprehensive plan. So there's a lot of information here, but it's done to basically connect the dots on all the legislation to have it fit like a glove at the end of the day. So that concludes the reading of that ordinance.
Thank you, Town Administrator. Commissioner Pearson.
Yes. I just want to add something in here tonight. First off, I want to start by saying for many decades, it was my job to understand fire flows, fire pressures, and friction losses. If I didn't understand this fully, it could get my fellow firefighters injured or killed. So I feel that I can speak on this subject with very good knowledge of it. So what I want to say tonight is the Town of Rising Sun is steadfast in our commitment to the safety and well-being of our residents. To that end, we are introducing a new ordinance that establishes strict standards to ensure adequate water flow for fire protection. Fire hydrants and properly sized water lines. We want to be clear, the town will not compromise on public safety. We will not permit undersized water lines that fall short of recognized engineering standards, nor will we allow connections to our system or the use of our water that fail to meet these essential requirements. The safety of our citizens and the integrity of our infrastructure are non-negotiable. We deeply value, honor, and cherish the efforts of our volunteer firefighters, who serve as the first and last line of defense in protecting our loved ones in the event of a fire. We refuse to support any measures that would handicap their ability to protect our community by imposing undersized water lines with inadequate fire flow or insufficient hydrants. Our firefighters deserve the full support of the community, including the infrastructure necessary to perform these duties safely and effectively. Furthermore, it is important to note that the presence of fire hydrants near a property not only enhances safety, but also provides a direct financial benefit to property owners, as insurance premiums are significantly reduced for property owners that are serviced with fire hydrants. Moreover, we are resolute in our duty to protect the residents and properties served by our utility systems. These systems are designed to meet the highest standards of safety and reliability, and we will not tolerate any efforts to undermine them or compromise the quality of services our residents depend on. The Town of Rising Sun is dedicated to maintaining and enhancing our utility infrastructure to ensure it continues to provide essential services that keep our community safe and secure and prosperous. The Town of Rising Sun stands firm in our sovereignty as an incorporated municipality under the Maryland Constitution. The town has the right to pass and enforce laws within our jurisdiction, and we will exercise this right to protect the interests of our citizens and taxpayers. We will not be dictated to or bullied by Cecil County officials who continually attempt to undermine our autonomy. The Maryland Department of the Environment has documented several water quality issues in the Rising Sun region, and the Town of Rising Sun has the resources to solve those issues. only to have the county stand in the way of solving these health issues, yet the county has done nothing to solve these issues. From failing wells to failing septics, the county stands idly by. Over 2 decades of unresolved water quality problems is unacceptable to our families and children. The county's continuous obstruction is not just a matter of policy, it is a matter of public health and safety that we can no longer tolerate. The county would like everyone to believe that their actions are aimed at protecting the rural legacy of Cecil County. However, the narrative conveniently ignores the reality of their zoning code, which permits the very construction and development they claim to oppose. In contrast, the town of Rising Sun has done more through its comprehensive plan to protect the rural character of the Rising Sun region than the county has. The truth is, the county is delaying the expansion of town water systems, not to preserve rural character, but to give artesian water time to fill these areas that they have targeted for development and for the profit and benefit of artesian water. Cecil County sold its water rights to Artesian years ago, and they are doing everything they can to take over the water rights of the towns and for the benefit of Artesian. I'd like to also add here, Artesian does not run water lines. They only supply water. The county would have to run the water line, which would be an expense to the county residents. The county continues to disregard various state laws, such as the Master Sewer and Water Plan, the State Comprehensive Plan, and the rights and privileges bestowed upon the town as a municipal authority. These laws are intended to recognize towns and counties as equal partners, not to render towns subservient to the county's political patronage. The truth is that the county has invested millions of dollars into projects like the 5-star and Calvert Regional Park, telling taxpayers these are good investments for the county. The town agrees with these assessments, but we believe the taxpayer-funded utilities of Rising Sun and other Cecil County towns should have a seat at the table and share in the benefits of any county investments. After all, the county collects roughly $2.5 million in real estate taxes from the residents of Rising Sun. A significant portion of our tax dollars and the tax dollars of other towns is funding these projects. Yet the county positions artesian water to reap all the benefits. That is neither fair nor just. Don't be fooled by what the county is doing. They are trying to dictate the size of water lines to prevent the town of Rising Sun from being a partner in the economic benefits of county investments in the area. The town does not seek to dictate what happens in those areas. We simply want our residents to see a return on their tax dollars and to receive the economic benefits they deserve. Thank you for continued support, and as we move forward with this important ordinance. Together, we ensure that Rising Sun remains a safe, self-governing community that prioritizes the need and safety of its residents. I would also like you to understand that any of this information, as far as fire flows, fire pressures, friction loss, are commonly found if you Google them. And you will see, when you hear what the county wants to do, how insufficient that water line potentially could be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Pearson. Could I get a motion to approve ordinance 2024-08?
No. Did you want to ask the attorney?
Oh. Jay, would you like to comment on this ordinance?
Hello, everybody. I think you've talked a lot about it, but this isn't something we've taken lightly. This has been discussed for years, probably, and it's finally incumbent upon us to clarify things. It came really largely from the meeting we had with MDE a couple months ago, and it was surprising when everybody was discussing water requirements, as the commissioner just read and spoke in his speech, that everybody was on a different page. They quoted different codes, they quoted different fire things. It's almost like nobody really knew what the right answer was, like there could be more than one answer type of thing. So when the town administrator and I talked about this, we said, well, we can clarify this and we can make it one answer and very clear what it needs to be. So that's really the reason for this, and I think it'll protect the town in the future.
Jay, a lot of other communities also have franchise agreements, is that correct?
They do. I've never seen one for water utilities because it's just cost prohibitive for a town or an entity to relay lines through another town. But we have them for cable, for phone service, for things like that. And the reason for that is the town, meaning its citizens, own the rights of way that go through the town. And so a for-profit company should not be able to benefit by using these public rights of way without compensating the citizens for their use. So at some point in time, we're going to need to talk about franchise fees and how we determine that. But this at least puts everyone on notice that you're not going to use the town citizens' property for nothing.
And town administrator, my understanding is that Northeast does have a franchise agreement for their water utilities, is that correct?
Northeast has what I would determine as a right of first refusal down on the 40 Beltway, that they have the right to service that area before anyone else. It's a designated service area for the town of Northeast.
How about Port Deposit? Does Port Deposit have any franchise agreements that you're aware of?
Well, Port Deposit doesn't have its own sewer and water anymore.
Right, they're run by Artesian.
Yes, it's all artesian.
And the county sewer.
All right, could I get a motion to approve 2024-08?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-08.
Second.
Is there any more comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Braun? Passes. Thank you. Moving forward into fiscal policy amendments. Town administrator, do you have that?
Yes, we have a resolution here, 2024-11. Essentially what this is a resolution to update our fiscal policy. And the fiscal policy is what our staff uses as sort of a guidebook on meeting the intent of how we deal with things financially in the town, or things that are connected to finances. And we have an issue, and we're continuing in what the town has always tried to do, and the best way I can always describe it, and we talk about this all the time as a staff, to never forget what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck and to have an issue pop up, an unintended consequence. And so that's why the town has done payment plans and other ways to try to help residents. And we had an internal policy adopted a couple years ago where folks that were filling their swimming pool could notify us ahead of time, and if they were using an excess of a certain amount of gallons of water, that we would not charge them for the sewer because it doesn't go down the sewer drain. But that's for basically large quantities of water. And recently, every once in a while this happens, we have residents that have a situation unbeknownst to them where they use lots of water. And the staff has always tried to be sensitive and sympathetic to that, because sometimes the bills in those circumstances can be really high. And I'll give you an example. The neighbor's kid comes in your backyard, plays around with your garden hose, you don't realize it, you go to work and the garden hose was left running for a day and a half, and all of a sudden you're facing a $500-600 water bill because the garden hose was left on. We have the ability in our system to find out what happened with these things by the way our meters operate. And so we, as a staff, we wanted to create basically an accident sort of forgiveness. I think one of the insurance companies has one of those when I think about it. Sort of an accident where your garden hose was left on. This is not designed for people that are planting grass seed or washing their car or watering the garden or whatever, because again, you pay that cost based upon 1,000-gallon increments. And so to get into the weeds of whether somebody washed their car, you're talking about fractions of a penny here. This is designed to be for the property owner who had a garden hose left on overnight. It's not something that, it's not intended to be something that you could do on a regular basis, because at the end of the day, the property owner needs to be mindful of that resource, because as we know, water is a very valuable resource for the town of Rising Sun, so we all have to work together to conserve that. So this is basically a fiscal policy change to sort of address that. And if you're good with that, I'll read it into the minutes and you guys can decide whether you like it.
Please.
Okay. So I'll skip the first couple boilerplate points on here. And I'm gonna jump down, the fourth whereas talks about the ability to develop a fiscal policy. We previously adopted a fiscal policy, and I'm gonna start with this whereas the mayor and commissioners wish to update section 11 titled Service Charges, Utility Billing, Late Fees, Payment Plans, and Shut-offs of the town's fiscal policy to better clarify policies on the billing, payment, and collection of valor of property taxes, debt service tax, property taxes, special assessments, service charges, permit fees, utility bills, and the issuance of late fees and penalties for non-payment, suspension and termination of utility services. So I'm gonna cut through this a little quick because you've seen a lot of this language, and what I mean by that is over the years, the town has sort of fragmented some of these policies, and they had some of them in the fee schedule and some of them in the fiscal policy. And I can tell you firsthand, and I'm sure Juanita can relate to this too, sometimes you're looking in the policy and you're like, man, I know that's written somewhere, and you gotta like think about the other policy it might be in. So we wanna streamline that. So you're seeing this resolution where we're gonna do away with a portion of the fee schedule. We're basically just gonna lift all that language and put it in the fiscal policy. The items that talk about bounce checks, discounts for timely payment of your real estate tax, none of that is changing. We're still giving early payment discounts in the town. We're still dealing with bounce checks the same way. Suspension of payments by check. The only thing one of the things we're doing is sort of updating it, because when this was written many years ago, you really only got paid by cash, a check, or a credit card. Now there's other ways for people to pay their bills, so we want to make sure we're addressing that in the fiscal policy. So let me scroll through here. We're changing the title of that section of the fiscal policy, and everything you see in red is new language. Existing language will remain in black, and strike through will be eliminated. So basically under general scope, we're just coupling together the other sections of the town charter and the town code that enable us to have this discussion in this particular chapter, or in this particular fiscal policy. So we're basically referencing chapter 9 in there. We're structuring the language a little bit better. So even though I'm talking about bounce checks or failed electronic payments, it was always there. I'm just reformatting it in the document. So there's really no changes in bounce checks, and if people abuse it, we're gonna pass along a $35 bounce check fee, those kinds of things. If we get too many bounce checks, we're not gonna take check payment from people. They would have to come up with cash, money order, a bank check, something like that. We're still doing a 2% discount for early payment of real estate tax. Let me remind everybody, we are the only municipality in Cecil County that still gives a 2% discount if you pay your real estate tax by July 30th of that year. The utility bill payments are all remaining the same. We wanted to clarify payment due dates. And I hope everybody understands, a lot of times this comes down to cash flow for us and being able to manage our cash flow. And we've had occasions where people know the way our timelines are written, so they we have something to manipulate that. And it really creates a lot of problems. So what we're doing here is establishing basically, when we talk about a due date, to either get a discount or a due date in which you have to pay a penalty. This is new language here. 14.5 policy on payment due dates. Timely payments defined. To qualify for early payment discounts, avoid late payment fees, or meet the required payment dates associated with payment plans, all payments must be received by the town according to the following criteria. In-person payments must be received by the close of business on the due date. Electronic payments must be time-stamped by 11:59 p.m. on the due date. Mailed payments must be postmarked with a date no later than the due date. Payments placed in the outdoor payment box as described in section 14.2 above must be deposited by the close of business on the due date. Month-end payment reconciliation and compliance review. The town staff will begin processing discounts and allocating late fees on the next business day following the due date. Payments received after these timelines will be considered late and will result in a loss of discount for early payment, late fees for late payment, or termination of payment plans for breach of contract. Essentially what I'm saying is if the due date is on the 10th, we're not going to start processing that stuff until the next business day. We're going to give people the complete, basically 24-hour period of that day to get their payment plans in. And as always, anyone who has an issue, please give us a call and we'll work with somebody on that. There's really no changes in suspension of service here. Every once in a while, we do get someone who says, I have a vacant house. I don't plan on using this house again for a long time. I want to terminate my water and sewer service connection to that property. We can do that, but then you lose your allocation to that property, because in order for us to meet our obligations to everybody, and this is something the town ran into 20 years ago, you can't over allocate your services. So if somebody wants to give that up, that is an allocation that we by right can give to somebody else. So if you change your mind 5 or 10 years later, then you're going to have to pay the impact fees, the adequate public facility fees. In order to avoid that, you just keep the service, you keep the allocation, and in exchange for that, you just pay the minimum bill on a monthly basis. It's almost like keeping your membership up at a country club or whatever. You got to pay something to keep that membership up. So this is talking about that. The other issue that we're having is that we have some properties that get town sewer, but they don't get town water. And they basically go through periods where they just refuse to pay the sewer bill because they have this idea that, well, we can't shut the water off, so because they're getting water out of their well. So we've always had this ability to do this, but we're just making it clear that in those cases, if their balance gets too high, we will show up in the public street and disconnect that sewer from our sewer. We're going to notify them, let them know if you don't pay your bill by this date, it's going to be disconnected. because as some of the commissioners remember, we've had people in the past that have accrued $10, $15, $20,000 sewer bills over a 5-year period because they just refused to pay the sewer bill on it. So we've always had the ability to do this, but we're just making sure it's very clear and laid out in the code. The other thing we want to make sure that we're doing is, we've always had language that in the unfortunate situation that we have to shut your utility bill off, or your utility service, bear in mind, we're gonna email you, we're gonna call you, we're gonna do everything we can to try to let you know that your bill is overdue. Sometimes it still ends up in us having to shut that service off. And we've always had a rule, we won't shut it off on Friday so people are not out of the service over the weekend. But a lot of times we get people who will call us after hours and say, hey, I want to have my water and sewer turned back on. Well, you would have to go online to pay that bill, and it's not fair, you've heard me say this a million times, it's not fair for other residents of the community to have to pay for the overtime that we have to pay our employees to come in after hours to turn that water back on, or sewer back on. So we're making it very clear that if we have to turn it back on after hours, you will be paying for that overtime rate. And that's a policy that we've always had. But that has created a little bit of a gray area because of the way our code was written. And there was an unintended consequence that when we talked about a voluntary suspension of water and sewer, we were referring to the snowbirds who like to go to Florida during the wintertime. And so in order to avoid having a water leak in their property, they would call us and say, hey, can you shut the water off at the street? Well, we had a fee in there, okay, we'll do that. But that sort of got interpreted as if somebody's having a problem with their water system and their plumber's out there and they need us to come out during normal working hours to shut the water off, that we were charging them for that. And that's not something that I think we really want to be doing. To me, that's a 9 to 5 function of government there. And so we don't want to have somebody who's got a problem with their water system to have even more expense by having to pay for a shut-off. Now, if you're requiring us to do it after hours, unfortunately, you do have to pay for that because there's an overtime component that we're required to pay. So you can see where a lot of the language in here that was strike through, we didn't get rid of it, we just reformatted it. You'll find it in the red. And the sewer fee waiver policy, this is where I talked about if you have an accidental discharge of water or loss of water, we're basically saying that if you incurred more than 2,000 gallons of water flow, and it has to be continuous, it can't be, you turn the water on here and ran it for a long period of time. When it runs continuous, we sort of assume that that's an accidental discharge. So if you incurred more than 2,000 gallons, you could be eligible for a credit of your sewer fee, but you can only do that every 2 years. So while we're at this phase, I know we had floated a lot of ideas. Feel free if any of the board members want to amend that to take the gallonage higher or lower. I know there was talk of maybe just a one-time fee for the life of the ownership of the property. We sort of settled on 2 years. We didn't want to make it every year because at the end of the day, we need people to be good shepherds of that water resource. So if you guys are good with the resolution, you can adopt it. If you're good with it, but you want to make some tweaks to it, you can do that here at this juncture.
Board members, what is your pleasure?
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay,
Neither do I.
Okay.
Fine with me.
can I get a motion to approve resolution
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-11.
Seconded.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes, thank you. Town Administrator, I'm gonna read these last two resolutions into the record, if that's okay.
Yeah, you can just abbreviate it by saying that one's just a resolution that reappoints Jim Boyd to his position on the Board of Appeals, and the second one is a resolution to appoint Alan Offenreid to the position of Planning Commission.
All right. Well, you stole my thunder, so Resolution 2024-12, which is the Board of Zoning Appeals appointment. Could I get a motion to approve that?
I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-12.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? We thank Jim Boyd for his service, continuing on the Board of Zoning Appeals. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution 2024-13, which is the Planning Commission appointment. Could I get a motion to approve that?
I make a motion to approve it.
And I second it.
It's a motion and a second. Just a short note, we sincerely thank former Commissioner Alan Offenreith for willing to serve on this. Alan served on our Planning Commission for many years. His breadth of knowledge and experience will be genuinely received well on our Planning Commission. So thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Thank you. All right, moving forward into staff reports. Town Administrator.
Yeah, I have a really long report. No, just kidding. No report.
All right.
Whoa. Did you just say no?
I can come, hey, it's a busy day here. I can come up with something.
No, that's all right. We're
All
doing
right.
good.
Chief.
I have a few things. First off, last Tuesday we had National Night Out. It was a little dicey early on with the weather, not sure if Debbie was going to cause some havoc for us. But we were able to get it in. We had a great turnout, great band played, old police cars, fire department demo, helicopters and all. It was a really nice time. I'd like to see the event get bigger, but that's up to the citizens of this town and this region. But we'll work hard with them to make sure it's better. So that was a great turnout, and my hat goes off to the fire company and Miss Heather Zarka, who also helped coordinate it with us. Second, we're hiring. We are hiring for a police officer. It would be great to get a lateral police officer to fill the vacancies that we have. So if you're interested, you're out there somewhere, drop in, give us an application so we can get looking at you and see if we can get someone hired real soon for the police officer position. Also, some of you may have seen that we had a benefit scheduled for the Stickney family, and unfortunately Debbie did cause a problem with that. The track owner at the drag strip, it was intended to be a shootout at the Cecil Dragway and a car show, but due to the weather it was canceled. We're not sure when we can get it in again, to schedule it again, because of the full schedule this time of year with drag racing. So we will work with the ownership of the drag strip to see when we can get a date for that. Lastly, there's been a lot of conversation online about the police cars you see staged around town. I wonder how many times you've driven by it to notice that there's no police officer in some of them. If you've done that, it served its purpose because you've had to slow down, and that's what we need you to do. They will continue around town because I've gotten requests. It's utilized throughout the country, especially on some of our toll roads. So it's going to be out there. And I am looking at other forms of technology for traffic enforcement. That could be stop sign, red light, speed enforcement. If you think that speed enforcement cameras can only be placed around schools outside of the interstate, you're wrong. It's on residential roads. So be prepared because they may be coming to a town near you. And that is my report unless there's some questions.
Chief, did you want to cover the two young men really quickly that we met with?
Yeah. I shouldn't have forgotten that. Again, I spoke about this at a previous meeting. We have always talked about see something, say something. And it's a great feeling to know that the young people are starting to pick up on that mantra. We had an incident at Veterans Park, and two young men were over playing in the park, and they just thought something was wrong. So they did the right thing. They called their parents and they called the police. It turned out to not be a major event, but it could have been. So I'm glad to see that the young people are stepping up to say, hey, look, this looks like a problem. We need to call the police to see if somebody can come take a look at it. So we rewarded them with recognition for doing the right thing.
If you see something, say something.
Yes, please.
Call 911.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Chief. Moving forward into the mayor's report, my report is pretty brief. Today, I held our first planning meeting for our fall spectacular. We are looking forward to that event. We are looking for sponsors. We're looking for volunteers. Spectacular will be held on October the 12th. We look forward to another great event this year. The town administrator and I have gone over the plans for our community building. New improvements are going to be coming soon, and we are excited for that to come to fruition, especially in the fall. We're looking forward to a new addition that I'm getting ready to post out about soon. That is the end of my report. Moving forward into another staff report, town attorney.
Good evening. Just a few things. We finally have gotten the final pieces necessary to file suit on the 16 Main Street action. We were waiting for a bring to date from the title report. The delay was the fact that we did the title report several years ago when we actually took the property to sale with the county. So we had to find the abstractor to do that. Long story short is they finally gave us their work product, so we have the abstract to file with the court. And so that should be happening shortly. There's a few other items that are going on in the legal department, but we don't need to talk about them in public session, and they're not of a nature where we need to have a closed session yet. So, but there are some other items brewing. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, town attorney. Moving forward into commissioner reports, Commissioner Braun,
I have no report.
Commissioner Kleiner,
I have no report.
Commissioner Pearson.
I just want to add with what the chief said. If you're a current law enforcement officer and thinking about retiring or slowing down, we have the perfect department for you. You know, we're not too busy, but we're not too slow. So it's out there. And not too big, yeah. So that's my whole report, sir.
Thank you. I did have one more thing on underneath the mayor's report, and I forgot to bring it up. Town administrator, there has been some ramblings online about two potential pad sites located next to the Dollar General that was recently posted on a community page. Can you give a little bit more clarity on that?
All right, so the Dollar General annexed into the town of Rising Sun back in 2017 thereabouts. And when they originally built the Dollar General, they laid out that pad for two additional building sites. They annexed into the town, sort of carrying those two additional building sites. We've had numerous conversations, the last one being probably 2 years ago. The Dollar General had a problem with its sewer system, its septic field. And it backed up into the Dollar General, so we were dealing with that. And at that time, the people who owned it at that time were talking about the steps that would be needed to move forward with that development. And this was a new owner. They were not the people who annexed it in. We've not really heard back from them in about, like I said, 1.5 years, 2 years. I think it's important to recognize that I don't want to speak for the people who own the land, but what I believe is online is they might just simply be wanting to sell the pad. So they're giving a basic concept of what it could be. I know the property owners on Stevens, I want to reassure them that no one's going to be able to just come in and put building pads in there. It would have to go through planning and zoning. There would most likely be public hearings and everybody would be notified. So we can't comment on anything more because we haven't been nothing's been formally submitted to us. So I'm just surmising what's probably going on.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anything to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, you see the Board of Zoning Appeals Planning Commission schedule as well as town events and upcoming holidays, the trash, recycling, and yard waste schedule. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a sec-
Seconded.
It's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.